Tom,
Oh, Pete.
do you remember last week at all?
Vaguely. Yes, I do.
Do you remember last week when you talked about punch-drunk bees, pollen-drunk bees?
That's right. Having
And when
bumble
they would
snoozes.
snuggle. It felt so good. It was such a good feeling thing.
No.
And I took that message of goodness and turned it into a competition.
Okay.
I wanted to see if I could make you feel good as you made me feel. And again, ideally, because competition, if I could make you feel better than you made me feel
Wow.
last week.
This
Yeah.
100% feels like a trick and a trap. But I'll trust. But I usually always trust someone under like a shawl. So I will give you the benefit
Under
of the
some
doubt.
sort of a blankie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some sort of a binky of, no. So I'd like to take you to Dateline, Thailand.
Oh.
1:23 a.m. yesterday.
Oh.
There was an accident on the highway. And the ambulance ambulance emergency personnel responded to this accident. And it was a motorcycle accident. And the driver of the motorcycle was tossed asunder and rolled to the side of the road. And the motorcycle was destroyed because of a collision with another party. And the other party was lying motionless on the street. And they were worried about its survival.
Yep.
And so ambulance personnel member Mana Shrivate
I know.
got out of the ambulance and began CPR on the party in the street. And I'd like to show you the picture of that now.
Is this going to be upsetting? Baby elephant!
It's a baby elephant. This guy got out of the ambulance and did CPR on a baby elephant that was lying. They thought it was going to die because this guy on a motorcycle ran smack into it. But that's not what happened, Tom.
It didn't die because of CPR.
That's not what happened. Because of CPR, the baby started to move. Manu Shrivate says, I almost cried when it started to move. It was my instinct to save lives, he said. But I was worried the whole time because I could hear the mother and other elephants calling for the baby in the jungle.
Oh, no.
Tom, we're calling for it. And then the baby stood up after 10 minutes and was taken to a vet. And they took care of it. And they made it feel better. And then,
Made
Tom,
it feel better. I don't know why that's funny.
they brought it back. They brought it back to the scene of the crime, to the highway. And they put it there.
And it killed the motorcycle.
And it started. Yes.
And it immediately
It turns
trampled the
out
motorcycle.
It was the start of Elephant John Wick, and it actually was a vengeance story the whole time. Do you feel better? No. They took it back, and it started to, I don't know, do elephants, they wail or bay, or what do? They honk, they horn, they signal, cry.
Drunk,
It started crying, and within 10 minutes, the mama and the remaining members of the herd came back and picked it up. And they walked up into the jungle together. Does that feel good?
That feels wonderful.
CPR on a baby elephant, Tom.
I don't understand how you do CPR on a baby elephant.
No, I don't think Manu did either.
No.
I think he just got damn lucky.
Yeah.
Quote, I assumed where an elephant heart would be located based on human theory and a video clip I saw online once.
That's wonderful. Do you think that when they were all back together, they all like curled up in the world's most gigantic flower?
Elephants don't drink pollen.
No.
It's like all just fish sauce and banana leaves. It's Thailand. Everything's a party.
I like to think I'm kinda tough. Sometimes I feel invincible. I feel like I got the right stuff. I feel like I'm in control.
Welcome to What's That Smell, a sometimes funny podcast about humans and their anxieties. I'm Pete Wright.
And I'm Tommy Metz III.
And every week we each drag one of our deepest, darkest anxieties into the light to share it, learn about it,
And hopefully laugh about it with all of you.
reach out. And you know what? We have a new way to reach out because if you don't want to write to that other email address, you know that one time we used, You don't have to anymore because we have this fancy new form, and you can just go to the website at whatsthatsmell.net. It'll take you to the right page, and right at the top there'll be a button, and it just says submit your anxiety or something of that ilk, which will be determined when I put it there. But it will be there, and you'll click it, and it'll open a form, and you just type. And you just type and hit submit, and it'll be delivered to us automatically because of internet. The internet saves forms and baby elephants.
Oh, thanks, internet.
And with that, I'll go first.
Oh, but I've been slipping lately. You got me going crazy. Now I'm down on my knees outside your door.
Tom,
Oh,
a few points to start us off. Point number one. Last week, we talked about your academic paper that you had to write and said that said paper was due yesterday as we record this. And I would very much like to know how you did, because I've been anxious over it all week.
really?
Yeah.
Well, Pete, thank you for asking. It's been a little bit of a roller coaster because I was all set and you gave me all of those great tips and I put them in my brain and I went to bed, and the next day I woke up to write the paper and I didn't because I had a minor panic attack. I had built up this paper so much in my head that I just couldn't do it. And so I'm being very honest, live stream, I reached out to my professor saying, because of personal problems, I would not be able to get the paper done in time, personal issues or something. She very wonderfully wrote back and said, okay, how about an incomplete? And then you can finish the paper on your own time because she was very kind. She said, you've been doing such great work. You deserve to finish the class. And I said,
because this was the last paper of the class.
100% correct. This is the very last thing. That was a part of the reason that I was having so much. Yeah. Everything else is done. Anyways, I wrote back and said, if you'd be willing to do that, that would be outstanding. She wrote back and said, of course I would. And if you can turn it in by Wednesday, meaning tomorrow by noon, we don't even have to bother with the incomplete.
Because she doesn't have to submit grades until...
Correct.
It's not incomplete until she submits grades, so you're okay.
And so that little, I think it was the support she gave. It was a little bit of the breath that gave me. It just changed everything. And that day, I sat down for a number of hours and outlined everything. All the citations, got everything. And then the next day, wrote it in about 3.5 hours. And submitted it today. So I even submitted it a day before it was redo.
Yeah, it was redoed.
Yeah, right. Redoed. So I fought through. I had trouble. I'm a little embarrassed to say that there was still a hiccup, but what was an awful situation turned into a really good situation. I'm very proud of the paper, and we'll see what she thinks.
Well, I was wondering why you didn't send it to me to read it aloud to you, and now I know why.
That's why, because
I was hiding very clear now.
In my own closet. Yes.
Yeah. Well, Tom, I'm proud of you, and that actually, given our topic today, you've buoyed my spirits. So that was point one. You did good. You did good, kid. Hey. Point two. Last week, I talked about hoarding and how I'm not a hoarder, and then we both heard, as if a voice from deep in the cave, you're not a hoarder yet. And how anxiety can just sort of leech at your will and restraint and suck it from you as you absorb the anxieties of others. We talked about, maybe we didn't talk about that so much, but that's sure where my head's been the last week. Okay. And then I'm noodling over all of these things and wondering at the same time what the hammerhead murder worms are doing right now.
Oh, right.
And how close they are and all that sort of thing. And the following comment drops into my lap. I bring you an unintentional listener submission, Tom.
Unprecedented.
It is unprecedented because this comes from Linda, who sent this comment to me over at the Taking Control of the ADHD podcast comment forum.
Other podcast.
The other podcast. But Linda is also a listener here, and I told her that I was going to pivot this comment and use it on this show too. That's the unprecedented part, and so we're all good. She's fantastic.
Okay.
So this is what she says. I'm wondering about any research you may know about relating to how the ADHD brain functioning absorbs the anxiety of people close to them and how it affects the owner's personal narrative as opposed to effects on the non-ADHD brain. Now, this is ADHD related, but talking about anxiety,
right?
And again, how the brain absorbs the anxiety of people close to them and how it affects the owner's narrative.
If you have ADHD, is anxiety more contagious than for other people? Okay.
I think, Tom, we're talking about empathy here, right?
Right.
Empathy and its relationship to anxiety. And that is my anxiety of the week. It's empathy, which is weird because empathy you think is sometimes a good thing. It turns out, Tommy,
it's supposed to be a real pro.
Wow, empathy is terrifying. It's terrifying. So scary.
Oh, don't let it hear you. Empathy is behind your couch.
That's another thing I totally stole from you this week, when last week you said the ending of your paper was look behind you and then you run out of the room.
Right.
I've been saying that all week. So thanks. You're a real earworm. So here's the thing. Thinking about anxiety, what would you imagine is the relationship between anxiety and empathy?
Well, I know for me, it is very connected. That I have to a lot of times break off from, not from the person, but I have to protect myself a little bit because I will just become a little bit of that person because I'm already an anxious person. And so especially if they're dealing with anxiety or depression, bad feelings like that, I start to take it on a little bit too hard and get a little bit too invested.
What if you separate it from the anxiety part, do you consider yourself an empathetic person, just generally?
I would like to think I'm extremely empathetic. Too empathetic. I can read your thoughts. Do I not know what empathy is?
Oh, right. Of course you do. Yeah. It's the ability, right? We're talking about the ability to kind of put yourself in another person's shoes, right? To be able to see from multiple perspectives. And it really helps you when you're dealing in social situations, when you're dealing with like just general care and feeding of humanity. It's good to be an empathetic person. And when you aren't an empathetic person, then you struggle with those kinds of things. Right. You struggle with social norms and all kinds of things. When you can't, it's a read the room skill, right? It's an executive functioning skill is what it becomes. And it turns out that there's such an interesting sort of yin-yang relationship between anxiety and empathy. There wasn't a lot of research in this area until very recently. Previous research in the area says that there's some direct correlation between empathy and anxiety. And here's a survey of some studies that talk about it. Using film clips depicting victims facing threats, a recent study demonstrated that trait empathy is associated with greater self-reported vicarious anxiety when observing victims. This is the old, oh, my face hurts when you watch somebody else step on a rake and have it hit them in the face, right? Previous studies have also documented that individuals who experience emotion mirroring intensely are more prone to personal distress, i.e. anxiety or discomfort. Investigations in the clinical realm have reported similar relationships. A study on inpatient adolescents found that measures of affective empathy are positively related to all anxiety dimensions. They found that individuals with social anxiety disorder demonstrate unique sociocognitive abilities such that measures of social anxiety and general anxiety positively associated with affective and cognitive empathy, respectively.
I got some of that. That's pretty sciencey.
It's pretty sciencey. I'm reading pretty smart stuff this week. What can I tell you?
I get it.
You got me turned on to academic writing this week. But really what we're saying is there is a connection between empathy and anxiety. That, especially in social anxiety, when you witness other people having social anxiety, it makes you feel more anxious. When you have that sort of anxiety, you can take on those behaviors and those structures in your own head and belabor them.
I know I've done this a lot in the past, but if I feel that someone is suffering from social anxiety or being too quiet, or if they're new to a situation when I know a lot of the people, I will generally try, because I know how hard that can be. I generally am someone that tries to really reach out and bring that person in and start engaging with them just to get them. And I think that's got to be empathy.
Well,
right?
It's got to be empathy.
Yeah.
Yes, I think it absolutely is, because you're the guy who can actually scan the room and pick the people who are struggling. And you couldn't do that if you hadn't been there.
Right.
Right?
I do. I start by going, you, which is weird. I point them out and I go, you, the quiet, awkward one, like really loud.
And do you still carry the unveil the scarlet A for anxiety now?
I do.
And put them,
yeah,
strap it to their backs
it's
when they're
at
not
the
looking?
end of like a taser. And then I just, it's just like a way to shake off the rust. Yeah.
Yeah. No, you're exactly right. Clearly, you've learned a lot over 5 seasons. So what we're talking about here is that there is this connection, but they hadn't done the work of figuring out like what is going on in the brain for empathetic and anxious people. And so here is a study. I bring you convergent neural correlates of empathy and anxiety during socio-emotional processing. What?
Thanks,
it's
Santa.
A slammer.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have the coloring book of this, so I'm pretty familiar.
Which is so great, because this is all about brain lighting up. Researchers are people with varying degrees of emotional sort of health on the anxiety spectrum to an fMRI and watch their brains light up around certain tasks, and looking at certain like photographs of people from fearful with expressions of fear on their face to neutral expressions on their face, and started measuring what's going on in the brain, what lights up in the brain, so they can start to look at direct and indirect relationships between anxiety and signals of, like you say, as you're scanning the room, who looks fearful, who looks anxious. While a direct relationship was not observed in these traits, the results revealed indirect links between empathy and anxiety through the mediation of worry and shared associations with higher self-reflection and ruminative thinking style. Okay.
Ruminative, meaning go over and over and over something? Ruminate.
There you go.
Okay.
There you go. So worry and rumination. How did those words hit you? Do you find yourself to be a guy who ruminates?
No, I'm pretty laissez-faire. Yeah, something kind of negative happens and I'm like, whatevs.
So anyone playing What's That Smell Bingo has just put a big stamp on Tom lies.
Exactly. Says the guy who got a panic attack from his laptop. Yeah. No, I'm a ruminator from a long time ago.
I mean, tie-dyed in the wool ruminators here. Me too. Man,
yeah.
I get so sucked into it. And it can be the slightest thing. I can. You want to learn how to perseverate. We need to start a mastermind group. You know, I mean, we
like a master
really bring
class?
This home. Yeah, a master class. Meet your instructors, Terror and Fear, being Tom, and it's going to be great. It's going to be great. We're right up there with Salman Rushdie, and it's going to be fantastic. So rumination, it turns out, is a big deal, and it creates the cycle of despair. It lights up all the right things that you would imagine are tied with anxiety. And that is just being shown the stimulus, shown pictures of people who look like they are worried or anxious.
Wow.
And I'm going to get to more, but I'm going to use just a few more sciencey terms. Are you ready?
Go.
Further results showed that worry and rumination shared commonalities with anxiety through decreased activations in the frontoparietal attentional network. This suggests that enhanced and prolonged bottom-up processing of emotional information seen in empathy, in combination with decreased top-down attentional control and repetitive negative thinking central to worry and rumination, result in higher general anxiety in socio-emotional encounters. So, one, we are not able to we're not able to decrease the noise floor of anxiety, and we're not able to come back and actually focus our attention on other things as easy. So it's like context shifting in the brain is incredibly difficult. And I know this speaks to me like a love letter, right? It's like you have a very difficult time, Pete, changing gears when you feel any sort of judgment or slight. And so as a result, you're not able to distract yourself with joy or goodness or kindness or anything new for long periods of time. And that just increases the cycle of emotion and anxiety. Yep. Okay. Here's another thing, though, from Berkeley. Get a load of this. And this is the part that I find a little bit scarier.
Oh.
And this is speaking to humanity. When you are compromised with anxiety, we've already said that empathy, being generally higher empathetic people because of our anxiety, leads us to fall off the rails with anxiety more easily, right? Yep. So there's one. Two, when you are off the rails with anxiety, it makes you less empathetic.
What? Wait.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Think about that.
We're too empathetic, and so it makes us anxious, and then we're not empathetic enough? What? Pete?
Yeah, because this is where evolution comes in. Okay. When anxiety peaks and you become terrified, fearful, anxious, who do you care about?
Yourself.
Who do you care about most?
Right.
You care about yourself.
And I already in the beginning, I said sometimes I need to put up like a barrier. I need to protect myself. That's that in practice.
It turns out science supports you, Tom.
Hey, science, good looking out.
Thank God. And I found it on the internet. The internet saved the world today.
Thanks,
and baby
Berkeley.
Elephants. Mm-hmm.
Baby elephants.
Isn't that fascinating? That is I believe what we would call a negative feedback loop, right? And it's really hard to break. And I don't think that I think it's really hard to imagine yourself sort of immune from that. I know I have that absolute experience that as soon as I get frustrated or slighted, I'm constantly thinking, like, my brain turns and focuses inward. It focuses on how to take care of myself, how to protect myself from that person or that thing that slighted me that one time so negatively. And it prevents, it puts up, like you said, that barrier that is effectively a one-way mirror, right? I can't see out anymore.
You island yourself, right?
I think that could be really, really dangerous.
If we're over empathetic, are we just going to like more of a normal, more healthy? Because ideally you can be, maybe not. That's just sympathy, right? I was going to say something of like, is there a way to be empathetic and not suffer from it? But that's just sympathy. That's the difference.
No, yeah, right.
You have to personalize it.
You have to be able to put yourself in those shoes, or have had that experience, or be able to normalize that experience. So I think that's really scary. And so Berkeley comes back and says, there are some skills that you really need to cultivate. And they're like practice exercise. They gave us practice exercises. I wonder if you've ever done this. And I'm going to skip on one. I'll just go quickly over it. It's actually their third, which is mindful breathing. We talk about mindfulness every single week. If you're not doing it, it's table stakes. You find some sort of a meditation practice or a breathing practice that works for you, and it'll be great. So that's number one, Berkeley says.
Did you just say table stakes?
Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah, it's like in poker, right? You show up to a card game, and it's like you don't go to the high dollar game first. You got to show up ready to play, right?
I was spelling steak like the food. And you were like, and it's table stakes. And I'm like, well, I guess like a dinner table. I was like, is that a phrase?
It's like counter halibut.
Yeah, it's soup bowl. Okay. Great. Sorry, go ahead. That's not helpful. Okay. Table stakes. Yeah.
I'm just so glad we come with such a shared vernacular to this podcast.
I'm a huge synonym. No, what's homonym fan? Yeah. And synonyms too.
So the other two, this is where we're building the muscles here from, again, Berkeley.
Right. Mindful breathing.
One is practice active listening. And you can do this with anybody that you're talking to, right? And that is to practice listening better and expressing active interest in your conversational partner, making them feel heard and understood. Now, I read this and I think this is an exercise for sociopaths. Like this is like what Dexter's dad would ask him to do.
Right. Like how to nod and say yes.
Yeah, how to nod. Yes, I care about you very much.
As a human man.
Right. So do you find you are an active listener already? Is this something that you do?
You never really know about yourself because you're yourself, but I would find myself to be an extremely active listener, if only because I rudely interrupt people all the time because I have follow-up or like right real quick. I want to follow up that or like go deeper into things. So I'm such an active listener. People don't want to talk to me probably. They're
that was actually a trick question, which
behind.
Yeah. You totally passed the trick question because we've actually done a whole episode on your social anxiety where we talked extensively about that and how good of an active listener you are because you care so deeply about everything that's being said to you at any given moment. And it's delightful. It's really, it's good. So you have already passed Berkeley exercise number 1.
Hooray.
Berkeley exercise number 2, and I saved this for last because I think it's the hardest one if you're struggling with this exact negative behavior loop with empathy and anxiety, and that is shared identity exercises. The exercise they're asking you to do is to practice imagining someone who is very different from you and then trying to imagine all of the ways that you two are similar to one another. Right. So you're seeing them. You're seeing them as an individual and not an other group member. Right. Right. They are an individual. And I think the Shaquille O'Neal example might be fine. I
don't know.
I don't know. I don't know why you started there.
CCH Pounder.
Edna St. Vincent Millay. I feel like that is. I think we're in a time right now that is hard, right? And emotions are hot. And this exercise, if you do it well, I think asks you to confront some, similarities with people who are very different from you, and maybe very different in a way that's scary, and that doesn't make it any less valuable. And so, in terms of being able to fight the negative loop,
right,
being able to build a bridge across the empathy anxiety chasm, you can strengthen those muscles by really practicing active listening and active seeing of shared identities between us, right? This brings us, these are all things that bring us closer together so that when, like you said, when you are tempted to put up that barrier, when you're tempted to isolate yourself, you can perhaps make the walls not so high or hold them up not quite so long. Because you have a constant reminder that, it's okay to be different. It's okay to experience judgment and know what to do with it on the other side.
I love that. That makes a lot of sense. And I want to change who I'm comparing myself to.
Oh, okay. CCH Pounder is no longer. Okay.
Nope. The baby elephant. We both get sleepy. We love highways. Yeah, sometimes I just go to a forest and scream. Sports. Feeling bad about your favorite sports team during the pandemic? Well, count your blessings that you're not following the 1899 Cleveland Spiders, who have gone down in history as the worst baseball team in history. Caught in a web of greed by their owner, Frank Robinson, the Spiders were stripped of what terribly little talent they had during the season, leaving the team to eventually lose a staggering 134 games, winning only 20. That is the most and least in history. Amid the losing, Cleveland sports writer Elmer Bates wrote that one of the only good things about covering a Spiders game was that he was not asked 50 times a day, what's the score? People would instead just take it for granted that the Spiders were losing. One person actually may have benefited from Cleveland's incompetence. After the final game, the players are said to have presented George Muir, the team's traveling secretary, with a diamond locket because, according to the dedication, he had the misfortune to watch us in all our games. Yeesh. The 1899 Cleveland Spiders are an example of terrible teamwork. Want to be a part of a teamwork that makes the dream work? Why not become a What's That Smell Panic Pal? In order to become a Panic Pal, we are asking you to do a one-time only, non-renewing $35 donation to What's That Smell. that will support all the time and expenses for production of the season. This is, while we do love this, it is not free, and we would really love your support. In addition to this normal podcast that, as I've said before, all the cheap bastards get, you will also have access to our live streaming, like it's happening right now. You could be watching us do this in real time. Wow! And also, you will get access to members-only episodes, like the COVID sessions, and other bonus material just for you to be announced. And Pete, do you think there's anything else that we can offer?
And a sticker.
Okay, and Gollum's going to send you a sticker, apparently. And most importantly, our undying love, because we love doing this show, but it does cost money. And if you'd be willing to help us out with just $35 for the entire season, you would be our best friends forever. Thank you, and back to the show. Pete, my anxiety this week is extremely timely, like literally happening this week, but it can be traced all the way back to 1971. And although it involves high technology, it all began with breakfast cereal. Intrigued? Back in the early 1970s, the largest computer network accessible to the general public was the telephone system. And at the time, telephones were managed by an automated system that used specific analog frequencies, noises, to place calls. An enterprising young gentleman named John Draper, no relation to Don, managed to exploit this situation, allowing him to make free long-distance and international calls. And what did he use to mimic the 2600 hertz frequency needed to fool the network into opening a free phone line for him? Do you know this, Pete? You're a tech guy.
Squeezing a balloon?
He squoze a balloon, Pete. No, but it's just as ridiculous. He used a toy whistle that came free in boxes of Captain Crunch. He has gone down in history known as John Captain Crunch Draper. Wow, way to go. Nickname department. You really hit it out. Anyways, this technique was known as phreaking, spelled with a PH, and has gone down in history as one of the first instances of hacking. Now, flash 49 years forward. On December 13th of this year, like just the other day, Reuters revealed that hackers have been spying on U.S. government agencies since as early as March. The compromises all trace back to a company called SolarWinds, an IT infrastructure and network management organization whose products are used across U.S. governments by many defense contractors and by most Fortune 500 companies. I'm just going to give you, you've heard of this, of course, Pete.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
For those that
they're
haven't,
so good at their jobs is what I really want to say. But go ahead.
Let me give just a little bit more backup of it. The hacker group, going by the admittedly adorably named Cozy Bear, were able to taint SolarWinds software that was sent out to their clients. When uploaded, it created a backdoor for the hackers to infiltrate the many symptoms. And I mean many symptoms, Pete. As you know, literally thousands of companies have been at risk for months, and that includes the United States Commerce, Treasury, and Homeland Security departments, and as we're still learning about this day by day, also the Energy Department, and that's nuclear weapons, Pete. It is now being called the Sunburst hack. While they deny involvement, so far all signs point to our old pal Russia, with Secretary of State Mike Pompeo formally accusing Russia on December 19th. After days and days of silence, President Trump said he thinks it could be China. LOL. He's the best. The Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency said in a summary Thursday that the threat poses a grave risk to the federal government. Peter, my anxiety this week is the fear of hacking, which, no kidding, has been named hacker phobia. Again, whoever's in charge of names is hitting it out of the park. Peter, you're a tech guy, so I really want to hear your thoughts about this, because this stuff seems really scary. And it's not just that they're going after the U.S. government. Hacking is huge. And doing research on major hacks that have happened just this year. Can I just go over just a couple of them real quick?
Yeah.
Estee Lauder. In February, Estee Lauder, 440 million internal records were reportedly exposed due to middleware security failures. Middleware? No one knows what that is. In March, Marriott, the hotel chain, suffered a cyber attack in which email accounts were infiltrated. 5.2 million hotel guests impacted. In April, the SBA, the U.S. Small Business Administration, revealed as many 8,000 business emergency loan applicants were involved in a data breach. Beach in July, MGM Resorts. A hacker put the records of 142 million MGM guests online for sale. That's just 4. And I think I just named everyone in the world. Now I'm going to stop screaming and reading all of this stuff, at least for now, and tell me, how interested are you in this? How up to date are you on this? Because this seems terrifying, and it involves tech, so it's doubly terrifying.
Yeah. This is Puppy Machine if I've ever heard it, and it gone awry, like Puppy Machine at Westworld. And so I am interested, and I this story is SolarWinds, first of all. So apparently they discovered in this part of this process, as they were being actively hacked, that the security researcher Vinoth Kumar, this is my favorite bit, that he alerted SolarWinds, the company, that their update server to all of their security software, the password had been set to SolarWinds 123.
What?
Yeah. So, I mean, this is one of those stories that we have a lot of things going on. And the first one is, yes, there are adjutants in the world, technical adjutants that are out there trying to make the world a worse place by destroying goodness and security for others, right? That just happens. They're trying to get information and get rich on other people's backs. And I have other... Sorry, but this is also like... But
we're the problem.
We're complicit. Like, when we do stupid things like set the password to company name number, we're in trouble already. Right. Like, that was just a shortcut, and somebody at SolarWinds needs to learn about 1Password.
Right.
I'll tell you, just 2 weeks ago, I got a fraud alert from my bank that someone had stolen my credit card number from my credit card, and they were in Florida, and they'd done a couple of things. They were trying to add it to their digital wallet, to like Google Pay or Apple Pay, one of those things, and so they'd been flagged. And then they tried to charge some world travel to the tune of $24,000 in a single transaction against my credit card. And I talked to the fraud specialist at my bank, and she said, I need you to know you're my dinner conversation tonight, because I have never in my life, I've been doing this for 12 years, and I have never seen anybody try to perpetuate or to perpetrate fraud in a single transaction this high.
So brazen.
This is just ballsy stuff right here. $26,000. The next week, I get a notice from SunTrust Bank congratulating me on my new money market accounts and my new credit or checking accounts, sending me checks to accounts that I never opened. So people are out there constantly trying to figure out a way to extort us because they have our names and numbers, and they don't care because of empathy. They don't have any empathy because there's no faces attached to our social security numbers in these mass hacking attempts. And that's really disgusting. So all of that is to say, I too am right in the middle of it. And I used to think, oh, I'm kind of on top of my security stuff. Every password to every account I have is unique. I change them once a year. I'm on top of it. My credit cards I keep in a password vault. I use a credit card that changes its number whenever I make a transaction on it. Like,
what?
I try to use stuff that's a little bit. I try to use stuff and I still get hacked like 3 or 4 times, like find that my material was in a breach that somebody can access. And I find it now, even me, pretty terrifying.
Yeah. Well, I don't even the things that you just said that you do, like, I don't do any of those things. How am I not? I think there's someone controlling me, like my body. Right. That's how severely I've been hacked.
I'm actually talking to the Russians right now.
Yeah. If you know my old phone number in Colorado and the names of the 3 dogs I've had, you have access to my entire life. Like, I am a disaster, and I don't know what to do. And I've just been reading about how one of the biggest things that's happening is, of course, privacy is a disaster. The ransom demands of things that don't ever get reported that they've gotten really good. Why? The only reason I want to bring this up is because that one hacker really shot for the moon for you with your big $26,000 thing. What they usually do is when they hold like schools or hospitals with ransomware, they don't ask for a ton of money. It's like tens of thousands or 20s of thousands of dollars because it's payable, and then they will come back and do it again and find another back door. I don't really know what to do about it because I don't understand almost any of it.
I just want to, I think you just said something really important, and that is that our fear exists in a place that is darkness, right? And that it is the world that we have created, the interwoven set of systems and technologies that we have created is so complicated that any one person does not understand all of the risks, cannot understand all of the apparent risks that go along with it. And that's where we are with this stuff. So like part of it is all you can do is your best. Right. That's all. That's literally all you can do, and that needs to be a part of the mindfulness like exercise for the week. You know, like when you take a moment to catch a deep breath and just repeat to yourself, "I'm just doing my best. I'm just doing my best." Because you're never going to go to grad school and get a doctorate in computer science and go study hacking and learn how to protect your credit card number that route. It's too complicated. You can't do that. And so I think
that makes me feel better because my anxiety ever since I got hired in March to be IT for SolarWinds, my anxiety has been through the roof. And now I've got all these messages that I don't know how to respond.
And then Pete said, all I had to do was meditate on it. I feel great.
Exactly, yeah. Between you and me, now I've changed it to SolarWinds 321, so don't worry about it. Take that, hackers! Live stream. Former NSA hacker David Kennedy gave 5 tips, and I'm only going to read a couple of them because they're easier. Number 1, use two-factor authentication or two-step verification everywhere you can. And he says it's already everywhere. All the banking systems you use, Twitter, it's available everywhere. You just have to go into your settings and turn it on. And what that means is, what does it mean, Pete? What is two-step verification? You have to verify it on 2 of your devices that you're you. So if someone else, like you put in your password somewhere and then it sends a note to your computer or your phone and says, is this you? Are you you? And you say yes.
Yes, which only works as long as you have your phone on you at all times. And so that's one of that is like the very basic two-factor. It's something you know, which is your password, and something you have, which is your phone. Right? So as long as you pair those things together, what you know and what you have, then you are less likely to get to have your stuff taken. But we have so many examples of people through social engineering hacks are able to thwart that process. So it's really hard. The next best way to do that is to use a tool that does an automatic key generator and doesn't send you a text. It actually, if you're on your devices like 1Password, you get into 1Password, it generates a key that changes every 30 seconds, and you have to put that in with your password, and then it's just that next step more secure. So, but that is what two-factor is. Something you know, something you have.
Ooh, I don't know why I like that so much. Number 2, don't use the same password everywhere. Okay, former NSA hacker David Kennedy, stop screaming at me. I get it.
Do you do this? What is your current password protocol?
What do you
do? Well, I just mean you sign up for, I don't know, let's call it
Ashley Madison, just the generals. Yeah. If people know what Ashley Madison is, that's not a bad joke.
Oh, they do.
Okay.
Other people do.
Oh, speaking of, they got hacked. That's right.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they did. That was kind of a legendary hack.
That's how we found out that there's no actual real women on Ashley Madison. Yeah. It's all dudes and bots. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Nice. Okay. So dudes and bots is what, like, you're signing up for your new account at Ashley Madison. What is it that you do to set up your password?
I use the same password I use for everywhere else, and I mean everywhere else.
Really?
100%.
Okay. All right.
Because I don't...
We have some work to do.
I can't remember...
In the spirit of please let Tom serve as a warning to others, we have some work to do.
And then Chrome says, do you want me to just automatically remember this? And I say, absolutely. So I don't even have to type in the same thing.
Do you have a password on your computer at a bare minimum?
Yeah.
Oh, good. That's something.
Yeah,
that's
I have
something.
a password on my computer but it's the same as all the other passwords. I have one password. If I could change my 4-number PIN to be that same password, I would. It's a disaster.
Can I just...
Yeah.
I have to do a public service announcement.
But how would I remember all the different passwords in this economy?
Right. There are a number of applications out here that fit into this category. The one that I choose and use is called 1Password, the number 1
I think that's what I have. 1Password. I don't even need this app.
No, you're doing it wrong.
Oh, shoot.
Let me assure you, you're doing it wrong.
Oh, darn.
What 1Password allows you to do is it's what's called a password vault. And so inside of 1Password is a secure and encrypted directory of all the services that you use and your username and password for those services. And 1Password generates the password for those services for you. So when you sign into Ashley Madison and for the first time, you say, my username is, Tommy Hot Dog Metz. And then the password you go you go over to 1Password and you say generate password, and there's a recipe there, and you can drag little sliders like how long do you need it to be? I want it to be 36 characters long. I want it to have some symbols, some capital letters and lowercase letters, and then I want to copy and paste that password into ashleymadison.com, and that password becomes unique. I can't remember that password. It's 36 characters long. It's just a string of text that doesn't mean anything to me. Stay with me now, because this is the magic. Now,
and by the way, I already know what my password for 1Password is going to be. Go ahead.
So you come down to 1Password and you say, okay, 1Password, I need to get into sweet.ashleymadison.com. Mm-hmm. What am I going to do? You can go to ashleymadison.com, log in, press the login button, and it comes up with your username and password field. And you hit on your, in this case, your Macintosh computer, you hit Command / the shortcut key, Command /. Now, your computer and 1Password remembers that your password is saved in your vault. So it will say, what is your 1Password? That's your secure password that allows you into the vault. And then 1Password pastes your super secure password into the site. So the site never knows your easier password. It only knows the complex password that you saved in your password vault. Are you following me?
Yes. I think so.
So all you need to do once you load all of your sites into 1Password is remember Command / and your 1Password. You remember one easier password to access all of the individual complex passwords for every site that you use. I cannot stress enough the value of a password vault in this economy, because you have to have passwords that are unique to every service if you want to avoid getting hacked. That is one of the main ways identities are stolen, is by people who have the same password on every account. Once you learn 1Password, you can get into every single account that they have.
All right. Okay, 1Password. Is it the number one, or is it spelled O-N-E?
It's number 1Password, and you can sign up for an account with them. It's cheap. You can sign up for family accounts. We have it for our family, where we have, it gives you 6 accounts for like $5.99, $6.99 a month, something like that. And so each of my kids has their own account. My wife has an account. I have an account. It allows you to share vaults if you collaborate with people. I have a vault that is shared with people on my team for work stuff. And so any of our shared passwords that we all need to access are in 1Password. And all you have to remember is Command /.
All right.
I'm telling you, man, they didn't use it at SolarWinds, and that's how we ended up with SolarWinds 1, 2, 3.
Good point. Okay, I will do it. That's helpful. Password vault. Okay, 1Password. Got it. Thank you. And then the password that I use for 1Password, I can write on like a yellow sticky and tape it to my phone.
Yeah, please do that. Yeah, and your computer, and make sure it's very clear. This is my password to everything, :
right.
And then write it out in like big bold print.
Don't use hackers, please. No, I'm not even going to say please, because then they'll respect me. Okay,
do you have a device that allows you to etch into the metal of your computer some sort of, you can just write it in the metal, so you can't erase it. You won't lose it. Yeah.
So that was number 2. Number 3, make sure that you stay up to date. Those security patches, every time you have a Windows update that says, hey, I need to update your computer, it's usually, I didn't know this didn't occur to me, it's usually to fix a known attack that hackers have figured out to access your computer. And I think that's a great idea. And I still think that Java and Adobe can calm down because they update their systems 19 times a day, and I don't see any differences. And last but not least, personal information. That's one of the biggest things that attackers can leverage to get access to your data. Things like social security numbers, your credit card numbers. A person is never going to call you on the phone from a banking service and ask you for that type of information. So whenever you get a call that's too good to be true, or a call that is like a fraud services line, call them back. Don't just take that call at face value. Find the other people to help you with that. Did that make sense? That was sort of words.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No,
and those are
really
just some easy things to do. And I'm going to do them. And you have my word on it. I'm going to go to 1Password. We should get sponsored by 1Password.
I think it's really important to just to get to take stock in what you have and what you have not yet lost, because it's just take a number and get in line before you get hacked. Wait, have you ever been hacked? Have you ever had your identity stolen?
I'm pretty sure Foster has stolen my identity. My dog Foster has stolen my identity like 3 times because I keep getting orders, big packages of sticks from Amazon.
Yeah.
And I haven't paid for those.
No, it's just sticks and a new computer.
Yeah. And why do you have to go to Amazon for sticks?
Dogs don't use computers. Everybody knows they still type on regular typewriters.
Your love. Your love.
Thank you all so much for joining us for this episode. This week's tune is A Second Without Your Love by John Coggins.
I am Tommy Metz III.
And I'm Pete Wright. Thanks for downloading. We'll be back next week on What's That Smell?
I can hold my breath under the water. Yeah, I can take the pain, it doesn't bother me. But I wouldn't last a second without your love. No, I couldn't last a second without your love. Lock me outside, leave me in the cold. Abandon me here, feed me to the wolves. But I wouldn't last a second without your love. No, I couldn't last a second without your love.